Hi, my name's Abby Beidel, and I chose to research the commodity market for corn. So on this slide, I'm going to be talking about historical price trends. I also found an interactive website that had a lot of interactive charts that showed the historical prices for corn. I found it really interesting that the prices were very similar to the chart I also found here. It On the website, it showed that in October of 2017, corn was about $3.50 per bushel. And now in August of 2023, corn is about $4.70 per bushel. From February to August of 2022, there was an influx of price for corn, averaging around $7 per bushel. I find it odd that during most of the time of 2020, the prices of corn is low ranging, from $3.08 to $3.70. I figured that it would have been at an all-time high because of COVID-19. And as you can see, it's very similar on this chart as well to the data that I just talked about from the website. It's really intriguing to see that from 2018 to 2023, the annual percent change went down from 6.9% the whole way to negative 30.9%. When people think of corn, they tend to primarily think of food, right? That's what I think of. What they don't realize is that corn is a lot more than our food. Some plastics are made with corn, and in fact use 68% less fossil fuels in production than traditional plastics. Corn is also used in batteries, where cornstarch is used as an electrical conductor. Crazy! Along with plastic and batteries, corn is also a major ingredient in cosmetic and hygiene products, especially deodorant. Cornstarch is a major ingredient in some of the deodorants because of its ability to be absorbent. I bet a lot of people don't realize that plastic, batteries, cosmetics, and deodorants are just some of the few products that corn plays a huge role in. Some of the products shown in the picture to the right are all made from corn. It's crazy to think of. Glue, Lucky Charms cereal, Pepsi. Well, most people know Pepsi has cornstarch in it, along with a lot of the other things that have sugar in it. But batteries, that's crazy. Diapers, that's insane. And dog treats. So many things are made from the commodity of corn. As most people know, the most common uses for corn is for feeding livestock, making ethanol, and making human food and beverages. The largest companies involved in the supply of corn is ADM, which stands for Archer Daniels Midland, Cargill, which is the picture in the middle, and Ingredion, Corn Products International. Companies involved in the demand of corn are DuPont de Nemours Incorporated, the Archer Daniels Midland Company (ADM), and Cargill. Yes, Cargill is both in supply and demand, just as ADM is. They are two of the largest companies that play a role in the supply and demand of corn, not only in the U.S., but everywhere. So below I have a list of the countries that have spent the most on imported corn. China has spent the most, which most of it has come from the U.S. They have spent $7.1 billion, which is 10% of total imported corn. Japan has spent $5.9 billion. Mexico has spent $5.4 billion, which is surprising because Mexico grows a lot of their own corn as well. South Korea grows 4.3, or South Korea has spent $4.3 billion, excuse me. Spain has spent $3.7 billion. Vietnam spent $2.56 billion. Egypt spent 2.5 as well. Italy spent $2.3 billion. Iran spent $2.29 billion. And Colombia spent $2.16 billion. These are just the top countries. There are other countries as well that have spent a lot of money on imported corn. So now we're going to talk about exports. I have a list of the countries that have exported the most amount of corn, and so I'm going to go over that real quick. The United States has exported about $19 billion worth of corn, which is 30% of the total corn exports around the world. Brazil has exported $12.3 billion. Argentina exported $8.6 billion. Ukraine with 6 billion, France with 2.4 billion, Romania with 2 billion, Poland with 1.3 billion, South Africa with 1.2 billion, and India with 1.2 billion, Paraguay with 109 billion. As you can see, the United States is one of the top tiers for exports in the commodity of corn, and that China imports most of that corn that we export. So China and the US, they have a very distinct relationship when it comes to the import and export of the commodity of corn, which is very good to know. There were a lot of trends and events that happened that affected the commodity of corn within the past 10 years. From 2012 to 2013, there was a major drought that caused the major high prices to drastically drop in 2013 and for a few years after that. Over the past 10 years in general, the major thing that has affected the corn market is technology. Technology in the past 10 years has created a way for farmers to have higher yields, which in return means vaster of a market for trading purposes. Technology has made it possible for us to create effective hybrids of corn, which means better genetics, and to manage our nutrients better for a greater yield. Corn has also been heavily impacted by climate change, which has hurt the amount of commodities that we have to trade. Another item that has increased the commodity of corn is biofuel. Our economy is leaning towards using biofuels instead of non-renewable resources, which means the demand for corn has went up in the past 10 years due to this. The chart on the right shows a lot of statistics that show why biofuels are making the corn commodity grow. Another thing that I didn't mention, but also that really affected corn along with any commodity, was COVID-19. In 2020, the global coronavirus pandemic and the control measures put in place as a response impacted agriculture supply chains and the markets for crops such as corn. The pandemic further depressed already stagnant market demand for corn and soybeans. This situation extended pressures on both prices of commodities that had existed since 2013 from that drought. So the future of the corn commodity market is unknown, but you can try and predict it just like the USDA tries to by month. The reason they don't go too far out is because you never know what Mother Nature is going to bring you. Another pandemic could hit. You never know what the government has in their back pocket. So I'll go over a little bit of what I found for the USDA for the near future. The U.S. feed grain production forecast for 2023 elevated modestly this month at 398.7 million metric tons, capturing near offsetting changes in corn and sorghum output, reflecting the net effects of forecasted decrease in yields to 173.8 bushels per acre, and an increase in harvested acreage, raised to about 87.1 million acres. That's really cool that we're increasing acreage, but we're decreasing the numbers overall in general. U.S. corn production rose to 23.1 million bushels this month to 15.1 billion. Looking more into the distant future, corn yield is projected at 181.5 bushels per acre going into this year into next 2024, up from a drought-depressed yield of 171.9 bushels in 2022, and is expected to continue to rise just under 200 bushels by 2032 to 2033. This is pretty amazing. Corn production is projected to grow from 15.2 billion bushels in 2024 to a record of 16.18 billion bushels in 2032 to 2033. For corn, yields are expected to increase at rates consistent with historical trends, reflecting continuing advancements in production practices and in technology, including improvements in seed varieties and in chemicals. Higher yields are expected to more than compensate for reduced planted acreage, resulting in record high production for corn and soybeans, and increased wheat production as well. Fun fact. The chart I have in the presentation is a chart I found for the GMO corn market, and Don't be alarmed when I say GMO corn market. It's just saying corn because most corn has GMOs in it. That's how it's able to be healthy, and that's how we're able to have such a large commodity is because GMOs. GMOs are a good thing, and I'd like for anybody listening to this, definitely research your GMOs with corn because it's not a bad thing. It's what we need. It's what you have to do to survive with the technology and the up and coming inputs that we have to keep this commodity growing. Thank you for listening to this. And I'd like to also mention that it is a great thing that this chart shows that we have a 9.2% increase in the market that is growing towards 2026. So I'm excited to see the corn market grow, even though month to month it might not seem like there's a lot, but in year ends, the corn market is definitely growing. And personally, I would invest in this market just because it's growing and is such a large commodity for the US alone. Not talking about the world, but for the US, it's a huge market. So yeah, I would invest. Thank you for taking your time to listen to my presentation, and I hope you have a blessed day.